Chosen one. Listen carefully, don't scroll, don't ignore this. Because this message is not random, and this moment is not an accident. There is something happening inside you that most people will never understand. It doesn't look loud, it doesn't look dramatic. There are no fireworks, no applause, no sudden miracles on the outside. But deep within your soul, God is doing something rare. He is making you strong, but not in the way the world makes people strong. Not by hardening your heart, not by killing your emotions, not by turning you cold. God is making you strong without making you hard. And that is one of the most powerful transformations a human being can experience. Because anyone can become tough. Anyone can become numb. Anyone can learn how to stop feeling. But it takes divine work to remain soft in a world that tried to break you. You've been through things that could have turned you bitter. Things that could have made you cruel. Things that could have made you shut down emotionally. And yet here you are, still kind, still thoughtful, still trying to understand instead of attack, still choosing peace instead of revenge. That's not weakness. That's God's work in you. Most people think strength looks like dominance, control, power, emotional distance. But heaven defines strength differently. Heaven calls it strength when you can feel deeply and still stand. When you can be disappointed and still love. When you can be hurt and still remain gentle. The world taught you that pain should make you sharper, colder, more guarded. But God chose a different path for you. He didn't remove your sensitivity. He refined it. He didn't erase your emotions. He taught you how to hold them without letting them destroy you. That's why your journey feels different from others. You didn't become loud. You became aware. You didn't become aggressive. You became grounded. You didn't become heartless. You became emotionally intelligent. And that is not an accident. You see, some people go through pain and come out armored. They protect themselves by shutting down, by mistrusting everyone, by assuming the worst. But you went through pain and came out awake. You started noticing patterns. You started reading energy. You started understanding human behavior on a deeper level. Not to manipulate, not to control, but to protect your peace. God didn't teach you to build walls. He taught you to build boundaries. There's a difference. Walls isolate you. Boundaries protect you without closing your heart. And that's the kind of strength God is building in you. A strength that doesn't need to shout. A confidence that doesn't need validation. A calm that doesn't need to prove anything. You've learned how to walk away without drama. How to stay silent without feeling weak. How to choose yourself without feeling guilty. That's spiritual maturity. That's emotional growth. That's divine strength. There was a time when everything affected you. Every word, every rejection, every delay, every misunderstanding. You took everything personally. You questioned yourself constantly. You tried to fix things that were never yours to fix. But now something shifted. You still feel, but you don't collapse. You still care, but you don't overextend. You still love, but you don't lose yourself. That's not because life got easier. It's because God made you stronger on the inside, not by hardening you, but by centering you, not by making you emotionally unavailable, but by making you emotionally stable. You don't react the way you used to. You don't chase the way you used to. You don't beg for understanding the way you used to. You've learned to pause, to breathe, to observe before responding. That's wisdom. That's inner authority. That's what happens when God is training your nervous system, not just your mindset. You're no longer controlled by chaos. You're no longer addicted to emotional highs and lows. You're no longer seeking intensity just to feel alive. You found something deeper. Stillness, clarity, self-respect. And most people don't realize how powerful that is. Because the strongest people in this world are not the ones who dominate others. They are the ones who can sit with themselves in silence and not feel empty. They are the ones who don't need to prove their worth, don't need to rush their healing, don't need to compete with anyone. They move slowly. They speak carefully. They choose intentionally. That's you now. You don't argue with everyone anymore. You don't explain yourself to people who already decided not to understand you. You don't try to convince people of your value. You let your presence speak. You let your absence teach. You let your peace decide. And that's divine growth, because God is not turning you into a warrior made of steel. He is turning you into a human being made of truth. Truth about your limits. Truth about your needs. Truth about your emotions. Truth about what drains you and what feeds you. That's why you've become selective. Not arrogant. Not selfish. Selective. You don't give access to everyone anymore. You don't pour into empty containers. You don't stay where you're not respected. Not because you're angry, but because you finally understand your worth. You've learned that being kind doesn't mean being available to everyone. Being loving doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. Being patient doesn't mean abandoning yourself. And that understanding is one of the highest forms of strength. God didn't remove your heart. He taught you how to guard it, not with fear, but with wisdom, not with walls, but with discernment. That's why you can show compassion without being naive. You can forgive without reconnecting. You can wish people well without letting them back into your life. That balance is rare, and it didn't come from books. It came from experience, from heartbreak, from disappointment, from learning the hard way. But God was with you through all of it. Every lesson, every ending, every emotional reset. He wasn't just healing you. He was rewiring you, teaching your mind how to think differently, teaching your heart how to feel safely, teaching your soul how to rest without guilt. That's why you don't crave chaos anymore. You don't romanticize struggle. You don't confuse pain with passion. You crave peace, consistency, clarity, and that shift alone shows how much you've grown. Because immature strength looks like intensity. Mature strength looks like stability. Immature strength reacts. Mature strength responds. Immature strength tries to control. Mature strength trusts. And you are stepping into that mature version of yourself. Not perfect, not emotionless, but grounded. You still feel sadness sometimes, but it doesn't consume you. You still feel fear sometimes, but it doesn't define you. You still feel uncertainty sometimes, but it doesn't paralyze you. Because now you know something you didn't know before. You know that you can survive your emotions. You don't have to run from them. You don't have to drown in them. You can sit with them, understand them, release them. That's emotional strength. That's spiritual intelligence. That's what happens when God heals your inner world, instead of just changing your external circumstances. And this is only part one of what God is doing in you. Because the next phase is even deeper. He's not just making you strong for survival. He's making you strong for alignment, for healthy relationships, for meaningful connections, for a life that doesn't require constant emotional recovery. He's preparing you for peace that lasts, joy that's stable, love that's safe, not the kind that overwhelms you, but the kind that supports you, not the kind that consumes you, but the kind that complements you. And that's why this season feels quieter than your past. Less dramatic, less intense, less chaotic. Because God is removing the noise so you can finally hear yourself. Your real desires, your real needs, your real voice. You're not becoming distant. You're becoming centered. You're not losing your emotions. You're mastering them. You're not becoming cold. You're becoming clear. And that clarity is going to protect you from things that once drained you. People who only took. Situations that kept you small. Patterns that repeated pain. Not through force, but through awareness. You will simply see things differently now. And because you see differently, you will choose differently. That's the quiet miracle happening in your life. God is making you strong, not by breaking your heart, but by teaching it how to beat calmly in a loud world. Not by removing your softness, but by anchoring it in self-respect. Not by hardening you, but by stabilizing you. And this is just the beginning. And here's what makes your transformation sacred. God didn't make you strong so you could dominate the world. He made you strong so the world would no longer dominate you. You are learning how to stand without becoming stiff, how to love without losing yourself, how to remain open without bleeding everywhere. That balance is divine, You are not becoming colder. You are becoming clearer. You are not becoming distant. You are becoming rooted. The old you survived. The new you is finally living. And this strength you carry now, it doesn't shout. It doesn't chase. It doesn't beg to be understood. It simply exists. Calm, grounded, unshakable. Because when God makes you strong without making you hard, you don't need armor anymore. You become the safe place. For yourself, for your future, for the life that's finally aligned with who you really are. And that is the rarest kind of power on earth.